Hello, everyone. This is Joy Patrick. Welcome to my analysis of the research article Ensuring College Student Success Through Mindfulness Based Classes. Just breathe. So let's get started. So, an overview of this particular study, it was done by Mahous et al. It is a little dated, it's 2018, but I chose this study because I'm really interested in mindfulness based strategies that help students transition or just look at students, the use of it in helping students cope and reducing stress through these strategies. And so, the researchers also wanted to try to address or try to answer the following questions. What are the experiences of college students with Just Breathe mindfulness program? So this is an 8-week program that students volunteered to enroll in, and then they were provided key strategies and different tools on mindfulness tools that they could apply and utilize in their day-to-day lives. So in addition, the researchers wanted to answer how do students describe just breathing influence on their overall well-being, and they attempted to answer these two research questions using a qualitative design. So what is the purpose? The overall purpose of this study was to explore how mindfulness supports stress management during the transition to college. So, what is the methodology for this particular study? Well, it is a qualitative component of a larger study. This study originally was quantitative. It consisted of two schools offering this particular 8-week course training, and the students who volunteered to be for the quantitative portion of this study, there were 109. Well, the researchers wanted to know or create a more mixed methods approach. They wanted the qualitative portion. So Mahfouz et al. Created they created a volunteer from this sample size, the larger pool of 109. They had volunteers from this 109 to see if they would like to go further and could do the qualitative portion of this study. And so out of that 109, they were able to recruit 20, basically a sample of convenience, 26 first year students. Now, from the original sample size, it was majority female, it was ethnically diverse. And so for this 26 that they were able to gather, they were also majority female, ethnically diverse, but it is voluntary enrollment for the 26. So let's shift and talk about data collection. How did they collect the data? Well, for this study, there were focus groups, individual interviews at three different points. For the training, before the training, during the training, and then 6 to 12 months after the training. This was done between the fall semester of 2014 and it ended in fall 2015. So 1 year total of interviewing and touch points with students. The data analysis, they use in vivo software in a general inductive approach to try to code these interviews all that data that they collected. Now, they kind of modified Cresswell's methods and the technique on how to code using 5 specific steps. They were able to code the information, but to increase the reliability, they had two researchers code the very first or the initial interview to make sure that everybody was coding correctly, not only through the software, but with whatever information you're inputting to increase reliability. There were two researchers who analyzed that one sample to see if they had any changes. This then they revised after, with these subcodes to see what points they could also extrapolate from these interviews so that as they inputted all this data, it would collect what they were trying to measure. And so in the end, they found the initial changes were the three core themes that emerged was stressors, their experiences with just breathing, and the changes in their day-to-day lives resulting from having this training with the Just Breathe initiative. So additional analysis for methodology is okay. What else besides interviews and gathering information from students and their well-being and how they perceive different things. What else can they extrapolate from this research? Well, the method itself is inductive thematic analysis, pulling this data from these verbatim from students on their experiences to try to answer a question aligns with the interpretive constructive paradigm. Basically, the researchers wanted to understand the students' experiences through mindfulness strategy, and they were able to pull that information or pull that data point to analyze. Why is this method appropriate? Well, the goal was to describe student experiences in their own words. It wasn't to build or to create a new theory or a phenom. What's the value there? It provides that practical insight into how students perceive and use mindfulness. It's not really generalizable, but it is something that you could get some insight on how students perceive this particular training and how it made any difference at all in their overall lives. And so the findings in general was that they had student stressors. They found that the students had academic pressure, social challenges, financial hardship, and then they were adjustment to struggle. So they did find that students in their first year did identify or recall these problems, these stressors being the big ones. Now, their experience with this training, it was very positive, and I it was receptive, positive. They are initially the study admits that initially the students who were in the course, they were skeptical that this would even work, but after they had a positive reception, even though there was some initial skepticism, meaning that the students progressed and they felt like it was working. And so the important reason why it was working, students identified that they had great facilitators. The facilitators for this particular training, they were they had a lot of experience. They had some tools that they program tools that they could use to help the students connect to mindfulness strategies. They had a very supportive environment. All of those positive points helped the students overall with the changes that they reported. So they got bracelets, charms, guided meditation. They were able to go through this training and then be able to apply it into their day to day. And so it improved. What did they find? Students reported that it improved time management and organization through these mindfulness strategies. They just found that there was a commitment to healthier lifestyles, about stress reduction. There was greater emotional awareness and relationship skills identified through these interviews, and then an increased self compassion was also pulled from this data. Now, when we say about data, you know, what did the research, what in analysis, how, was it the right method? Was it rigorous enough? Did it limit a lot of bias? What exactly helped strengthen that this was a study done well? Well, they had efforts. They not only did they collate the interviews, but they transcribed verbatim what happened or just and coded the verbatim. That coding was done by not just one person, it was multi researchers coding for reliability. And but to strengthen it, they also had, because this is pulled from a larger study, they also had the quantitative data to help see if those things also resonate with what was gathered from the quantitative side. And so that all strengthens this particular study. It actually adds value to it. But the limitations, however, and all things have pros and cons or limitations, was it is a small sample size and it is self-selected. And because the original out of the 109, there's about 38% or 37% male. In this 26 students, there were only two males. So it wasn't a real good representation of the subset of that 109. That limited the generalizability of this. You can get information, but you can't say you can generalize it to all. But also, another limitation was a strong reliance on self-report because it is looking at how you feel. What did you gain? Um, and so that might be a possible social desirability bias because the students who are, particularly in, enjoy mindfulness volunteer for additional. Hey, I love this. So it might have just you know, they maybe have some bias there. Now, another limitation that the researchers identified is mostly the regular attenders were included. So those who went through all the sessions and they would attended all the sessions, they were the ones who more likely were answering these interviews versus the less engaged students who were not well represented. These students all admitted that they attended at least 6 or 8 sessions out of the 6 weeks, and so that is a limitation. It doesn't really, if you only went once, were you able to take these tools and apply it. These students went for the majority of the training, and so out of these 26, it's really hard to make a generalized statement about if this overall activity slash research slash education worked overall. It's hard to make that total. But it's not enough to generalize. So my conclusion is that Just Breathe provided meaningfulness stress reduction strategies and coping tools. And students did say they were helpful. Mindfulness still holds promise in my conclusion as an integrated component of student success programs because these students did admit, even though these sessions and facilitators and this design, in the end, students still had a positive experience and they had positive findings. Now, for future direction, we need more larger, diverse samples. We need longer outcomes. Does this work even longer than 6 months to a year? Does it last all the way to your fourth year, for example? And because this was a generalized first year students, what happens if we gave it to just nursing or just to any professional program? We did strategic training. Does that help them through their career or going forward? And this is my reference for context. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my analysis of this article. You will find that I've also tagged this article in the discussion board, and I look forward to your comments. Thank you.